Ladies and gentlemen, you are now watching and listening to Real Talk with Ronnie, with your host, Ronald Lynn. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Real Talk with Ronnie. Tonight, we have a very special guest, a friend to our show, someone who's been on our show before, and someone that we love having on. His name is Darius Mayfield. Darius Mayfield, if you may recall, was the congressional candidate for District 12 here in New Jersey in 2022. He's running again in 2024, a bit of a rematch, right? So we're very happy to have him on to tell us about his race this time, what he's going to do differently, and what he's been up to since the last time we had him on. Mr. Mayfield, how are you?
Hey, Ron. Fun to be with you again, man. Thanks for having me on, brother.
Always a pleasure. Darius, it's been it's been a little bit of time, right, since you've been on.
Yeah.
At least I want to say like 6 months, 1 year.
Yeah, probably around that, maybe a little bit more since the last time we were in the middle of the campaign.
Right. So now we're in 24. Oh my gosh, time flies, right?
Yeah. It really has, man. A lot's been going on with myself and you as well. And I want to tell everybody out there, congratulations on you. Like I was just telling you, being a professor, and you know, I'm all about education, man. So to me, that's important, especially knowing somebody that's like-minded is out there, getting their vision out, being able to mentor the youth and, really teach them the way they're supposed to be taught. So congratulations to you and your family on that.
Oh, thank you, Darius. Thank you. And as we were saying also backstage, I'm very envious of you and I admire you because those who run for Congress are not only very bright, but also very, very brave, right?
Yeah, something like that, man. But, right now, as I'm sure we'll get into, it's just kind of needed. And that's how I got into this, just kind of foreseeing the future and seeing where we are, right now. I was actually just telling somebody that this morning that, I'm glad to be vindicated. And everything. I went through a lot of hate like a lot of other people did as far as, my beliefs and what I was standing up for. So to see everything coming to, fruition the way it is right now, obviously it's bittersweet because we don't want to see these things happen. But, on the other side, I know I've been fighting the good fight, fighting the right fight, and in the right place, saying the right things and advocating for the right policies. So that's a good feeling.
Okay. So why don't we start off by asking, who was Darius Mayfield and why are you running for U.S. Congress?
Yeah, I mean, Darius Mayfield is a kid from humble beginnings. I should preface that with a New Jersey boy, a New Jersey kid, because as you guys know, I am completely pro New Jersey. I am a Jersey boy to the core, born, raised, and bred here. And, I come from very humble beginnings in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Grew up with a single mother, little sister, welfare, Section 8. Anything you can imagine coming up in those underserved communities as I did, to, eventually becoming the youngest sales manager in the top 25 auto group, the first Black general manager of the third fastest growing auto group, Open Road, when I started running Manhattan Volkswagen. And that was due to, my mother putting me and my sister, especially later in life, in situations where we could receive a proper education, which is why I'm such an advocate for school choice, for, more access to quality education for all American families. That's why over the last year, I started a foundation, conveniently named after myself, the Darius Mayfield Foundation, which helps to spread school choice and quality education to those underserved rural and urban neighborhoods around our country, as well as helping solve the transportation gap, because as we know, there is a shortage of bus drivers all around this country right now, not just here in New Jersey. You can go into the deep parts of Texas, into Georgia, into Missouri, anywhere you go in this country right now. There is just a complete meltdown at all levels when it comes to our education system, from the bus drivers to the quality of teachers, to the curriculum. And, so this is something that's very important to me. I believe that fixing our education system, making sure all families have access to quality education in the most powerful, richest country in the world is key to setting us back on the right track. When we see so many things happening nowadays that none of us have ever seen before, it's because of a loss of critical thinking skills. It's because a lack of quality education. It's because of things like COVID and our school boards, our board of eds not having a real plan to reingratiate our kids back into their school systems, where a lot of them fell victim to mental illness and suicide attempts, which skyrocketed here in places like New Jersey. So these are very serious things that I just see happening and degrading over time in such a great country, a country where I really grew up to love because of all the opportunity that I had and the way that my family and my mother raised me to believe that this was the greatest country. You can go out there and do anything it was you wanted to do. So for me, I felt like it was always my mission to continue to do that, which is probably one of the main reasons that I'm running for Congress and ran in 2022, because I want to continue to serve as an example to any and everyone that just kind of needs that faith, needs that hope. You know, that person out there that doesn't think they can do it because of where they come from, their socioeconomic status, because you know, they are in the situation that they're in. And I want to serve as that example to let them know that that's not true, man. No matter if you're an immigrant coming from the poorest of countries or you're a generational American here that was just, you know, unfortunate enough to come up in humble conditions like I did, that doesn't mean because you started there, that's where you have to end. So my goal is to continue to build, continue to do great things, to continue to inspire people. And if I can do that by running for Congress and eventually winning this seat here in 2024, because I do believe, honestly, that with everything going on right now, and this is why I said before, I feel like I'm pretty much vindicated and I've put myself in the right position, because right now, from what we see of the policies of this Democrat administration, the people are done. You know, they thought that they had people like Donald Trump down and out, but as you see, the more they come after him, the more that they try to take him off the ballot, the more that even people like myself and you, minorities in this country, are coming more and more to his defense, and polls are showing all over that this guy is about to get record amounts of minority votes, something a Republican has never accomplished ever in this country. So this is why I do what I do, just to continue to inspire people, just to continue to advocate for justice, quality education, again, school choice, and just a better America where everybody feels like they have a shot at the American dream, because they do.
Right. Wow. Well, Darius, your story, your personal story is obviously very, very inspirational, right? And I think that the work that you're trying to do to lift up others is very admirable. So thank you for that. And, you know, today is the first day of Black History Month. So, you know, but let me ask you, so being Black in America, right? What does that mean to you?
Man, it means everything to me, you know, especially being in you know, especially being a generational Black American. You know, I have a very big family. My grandmother and grandfather had 15 kids, and there's a lot of first cousins. His sister had 17 kids. So there's a lot of us. And, you know, we trace back down to the deep South, I believe Tennessee originally. So my family, my aunts specifically, my uncles, they all know our family history. You know, our great grandfathers, great grandfathers were 100% Native American that married free slaves. So it's quite a dynamic, quite a inspirational and quite a phenomenal and incredible story, especially being Black in America, being Black in the greatest country to ever grace this earth. And, you know, to me, everything happens for a reason, and there's a lesson in everything. And, you know, I always say that obviously we understand that there are ills in this country. There's things that happen in the past in this country that, you know, weren't the greatest things. I mean, we went through slavery, we went through Jim Crow, we went through segregation, we went through a lot of things, but we still overcame, and we are still overcoming even now, which is, you know, really makes me feel good to kind of see this crossover right now. What I was just talking about before, how you do have people waking up, you do have people using their critical thinking skills to understand what's really voting in their best interest. So to be Black in America, man, I think is probably one of the most special things in the world. I'll be honest with you. I love it. I love being Black. I love being American. You know, it's not Black, not white American. And, you know, I think just being Black means that, you know, in a lot more ways than one, in a lot more ways than some of, especially the youth, recognize. I believe being Black is it represents strength, represents endurance, represents just a very talented people that, even from our inception to now have taken over so many different markets, have done so many different things, have invented so many different things in this country. There's so many different things that Black Americans have invented that the world now uses so readily that most people don't even know at the end of the day. And that's something, through education and things of that sort that we want to continue to grow in the consciousness of people to, understand the word I'm looking for is to understand how everyone, had a part, not just in this country, but in the world, in creating things and creating our culture, and doing things. And I think that's something that's maybe a little bit underrepresented sometimes when it comes to the Black population. More than anything, I also want my people, especially Black people, to understand our real power and who we are. One of the interesting things that I see, especially when I was on the campaign, one of the questions I used to ask my Black constituents was, how many Black people do you think there are in this country? And the number one answer I got almost unanimously every time was 1 million. Well, in fact, there's over 50 million Black people in this country. So that lets me know just how little they understand. A lot of people understand about our true value, our true strength, and our true story in this country. It started off with the Native Americans here, and then the Europeans got here. They bring over Blacks as slaves. And, during that time, we, populated and built this country just like anybody else. And, it's time for us to start recognizing that. It's time for us to start actually stepping in our power and being the Americans that we were born and bred to be, and kind of taking this country back. And I don't mean that just for Black people, but I mean that for all real Americans, all freedom loving people that love this country. So again, I want to say, happy Black History Month to all the Black people around this country, all the Black people of the world, because, I do understand that some people may not necessarily agree with a month like this. And, for me, I don't subscribe to that. I don't understand it because, as I said, as being a generational Black America, and when you understand your strength, when you understand, you put a large multitude of different ethnicities together, they still don't match the numbers when it comes to the Black population in this country because of our deep history rooted in this country. So it's my job to, from that standpoint, make sure that they do understand that, make sure that we are recognized and celebrated for our contributions to this great country, and we continue to all grow as the Americans that we are.
Right. And happy Black History Month indeed, right, to everyone. Because it's not really only just a Black History Month, right? This month represents pretty much America, right? It represents the best of what this country has to offer, and it represents the true values of this great nation. Right?
I mean, it really does. And not that I'm getting choked up or anything, but it does mean a lot to me. I love this country. I love our people. I love the stories that we have. Obviously I'm happy to be born at this time because I wouldn't have wanted to be, I don't know if I would have had the strength to endure some of the things that my ancestors did, but I also recognize what they did endure to ensure that I have the opportunity sitting in front of me now. So never will I be a victim, although we have been victims throughout history. But never will I be a victim because I know where I sit today is a far and away from where any of those ancestors ever sat. And I don't have to endure even a quarter, even a thousandth, even a millionth of what they've had to endure over time to ensure that I was able to do this. So I'll always respect that, honor that, and continue to carry on the tradition and make sure we stay strong and we grow in this American family.
Right. Now, do you think we've at this point kind of lived up to Dr. King's dream, or do you think we're not there yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways we have. I think, when it comes to it's funny because I know obviously I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, and, you hear things, sometimes from conservatives that say there is no such thing as institutionalized racism. Well, there is, right? The public school system is one example of that institutionalized racism, where you can go from one zip code to the other, and there's a drastic difference in the quality of life. There's a drastic difference in the curriculum, in the what's available as far as electives in their schools, and just the overall. I mean, in Trenton, New Jersey, we nominated a teacher with our foundation for Adopt a Teacher, where we go and buy all their school supplies. And the number one thing she needed was pens and pencils. Like, you go to South Brunswick, where I went to school, end up moving to, I mean, that's the least of your worries out there, right? So to hear things as minuscule as pens and pencils are needed in certain communities. So I think, a lot of it comes down to, and I know it is Black History Month, but in a lot of times, I believe a lot of people, especially in the leadership position in the Black community, have failed their people. So in that way, I don't think we've lived up to Dr. King's dreams. When you can go to Trenton, New Jersey, and look at the statistics and see that from K through 12, over 85% of the kids there can't read or write at a grade level. I don't think we've lived up to the dream when you can go to Baltimore and find multiple schools that can't find one student that can read or write or do math at their grade level. I mean, that's just a travesty at the end of the day. Now, when it comes to judging people off the content of their character, not the color of their skin, I think we've come a long way in that sense. Obviously, I mean, we can just see that from the different examples, whether it's our athletes, whether it's our entertainers, whether it's our doctors like the Ben Carsons of the world, whether it's our literary scholars, whether it's our mathematicians, whether it's our doctors, because we're in all fields at the end of the day, even though it's not always recognized that way. And we've had, as I mentioned before, some people that have brought some real dynamic things to not only this country, but this world when it comes to their expertise and inventions and things of that sort. So, I think when it comes to that and them being able to take advantage of those opportunities to get to those places, obviously we got to a point where, in a lot of those cases, they were judged off the content of their character, even if the people putting them in those positions sometimes maybe didn't like the color of their skin, because when it's about the content of your character, it doesn't matter about anything else, because you can't deny that talent. You can't deny that ability. And I think that's a place where we all want to get to, where Dr. King, wanted to get to. But unfortunately, in too many of our communities right now, we have let down the people, especially educationally, scholastically, in those areas where now they don't even believe that they can obtain those things. They don't even dream, that much anymore to actually duplicate and exceed those same type of accomplishments. And that's a sad thing to see, because that's generation after generation after generation that has really just been let down and left by the wayside, in all honesties. I mean, just imagine, if the Black community was more like, let's say, the Asian community that puts a real emphasis on education, how many more things that we can produce, how many more scholars, how many more inventions, how many more of everything we could have produced to, really put our stamp in and make our contribution in this world. So to me, that's probably the most disappointing part of all this. And especially because it's going to be such a hard thing to reverse. You're talking about generational curses at this point when it comes to the education system, the lack of opportunity and things of that sort. So this is not something where, I can get on here, or I can give a speech and, go shake hands and run for Congress one time and everything's, well, everybody thinks like I do. No, this is going to take grinding. This is going to take being consistent and what's happening. And it's going to be, take, as I said before, just showing things by example and continuing to lead that way. I went and spoke at a school choice week event the other day. And then just yesterday, from one of the students there, him and his principal asked me to come speak to the entire school, which is a charter school out in Newark, New Jersey. So seeing those things, seeing that generation where you do have kids that have that access to that quality education, and seeing how intelligent they are, how forward thinking they are, how much critical thinking skills they have, is what actually motivates me to continue going, because I know the more we spread that, the more we provide access and open those things up, you'll see more and more and more individuals like that. And once we get to that point, once we have more kids actually succeeding than not, I think we'll be a lot closer to realizing Dr. King's dream and really making this the America that we all want it to be.
Okay. So short answer, almost there, but not quite yet, right?
Yeah. We're getting there, man. We're doing it the American way, but we're getting there.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, fun fact, do you know why the month of February is Black History Month?
That's a good question. I don't. Well, I know it's the shortest month of the year. So in the Black community, they always used to say, well, why'd they give us the shortest month in the year? But good question.
Well, I learned today, and I heard from like a radio program, that the reason why February is deemed Black History Month is because the abolitionist Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln were both born in February. So
I mean, that definitely makes sense. And
right,
I will say that you know I don't want this to seem like there is the biggest emphasis on February being Black History Month, because at the end of the day, we should be celebrating all people all the time, right? That's why,
right,
so, once February is over, I don't stop my work in the inner city, and because February is over and things like that. So we obviously should be celebrating everybody, everything, no matter where you come from, whether it's an Asian American background, Italian American, Black American, whatever it is. So we can celebrate anybody at any time, but with going back to your question before, with us having such a deep rooted history in this country, being part of the originality, I like to call it, of this country, that is the least of what we deserve. And so I don't feel bad or think it's a bad thing at all celebrating it, and I hope we celebrate that and more often.
okay. Well, you mentioned though that a lot of the Black leaders in our country have failed the Black community, right? Could it be that one of the Black leaders you're talking about is Bonnie Watson Coleman, your potential opponent in 24?
Yeah, man. Bonnie Watson Coleman. It's, let me preface this with saying this, and I've always said this. Um, I want to thank Bonnie for her service, and I congratulate her on even being in, as we talked about what we were just talking about, as far as exceptionalism in the Black community. She was the first Black woman Congresswoman of New Jersey ever. I believe the only one and the first one ever in this state. So we congratulate her for that. Now, I look forward to being the first Black Republican congressman in New Jersey, and a real American at the same time. And what I mean by that is, somebody
Well,
that.
I think Billy Prempa is trying to go for that distinction, right? So
Well, we'll both
right,
be there at the same time. So me and him have to fight it out for who got there first. Hopefully, my total, they put the check mark by my name first, and then I'll
right.
officially be the the first one. But listen, I always say, even talking about Billy, man, how special would that be if me and Billy could both get voted into Congress? Because he's me and him are like yin and yang, bro. Billy's very big, 6'4", 6'5", dude that can, he's gonna tell you how it is, can be aggressive,
Right.
and I love that about Billy. You got me more of the business side. I'm gonna be more calculated in certain things, and so me and him as the yin and yang in there. I mean, I don't think they would know what to do. You probably have most Democrats on the other side retire because they understand
Well,
what we're about
which
to.
one would be the yin? Which one would be the yang?
So what?
Which one would be the yin? Which one would be the yang?
I guess he would have to be the yin, and I have to be the yang, because I just think the yang sounds cooler.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, man, as far as Bonnie's concerned, man, again, you give her all credit for that, but based on what the American people are telling us in every single poll right now, based on the mood of the country, based on what you see happening around the world, she's the wrong woman at the wrong time right now, and she's completely out of touch with what the overwhelming majority of Americans actually want. The majority of Americans, they don't care if you're gay, they don't care if you're trans. They understand this is a free country, and we want everybody to be, who they want to be at the end of the day. But most Americans don't want little kids, kindergartners, second graders, third graders, fourth graders, to be talked to, first of all, not only talked to, but talked to about changing their genders, but also have the ability to physically go out there and do those things. Most Americans, as far as changing their genders, most Americans don't want kindergartners and first graders and second graders being taught about gender identity and all the homosexuality, things that they're putting in books right now and trying to teach our students here in places like New Jersey. Most Americans, whether you're Black, white, Democrat, Republican, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Catholic, whatever it is, most Americans don't want that. They want those things to be left to the auspice of the parents, the family, the home. And that's the right way to kind of go about those things, because those are very unsettling issues for some people, and they're very personal things for a lot of people. And a lot of people have a lot of different beliefs. So that's something that they should be handling inside. Most Americans, as we see, do not want an unmitigated amount of illegal migrants being dropped off throughout their communities, especially when it comes to those minority communities. Because if you notice, that's where a lot of them are taken. We saw last year when they landed in Martha's Vineyard, which I did go visit a few months ago just to see how it was going out there. They were out of there within 48 hours, and they're being dropped off in San Francisco, Chicago, New Jersey now, New York City. But they got dropped off in Martha's Vineyard. And within 48 hours, those same people that tell us every day that we're racist for not wanting people to just be able to come unchallenged over the border were the same ones that got them out of there within a 48-hour period. Most Americans don't want to pay $4 and $5 a gallon for gas. And also, most Americans understand that countries like Russia, some of our biggest enemies and biggest nemesis, benefit off higher energy prices at the end of the day. I mean, it's just simple economics, right? So they understand these things. They also understand that's what kind of led to what's happening over in Ukraine, where Russia was in power because they were making more money because of the policies of people like Joe Biden and Bonnie Watson Coleman, where they wanted to strip down our gas industry here in this country, our oil and gas industry, and go green electric, which is something that's not viable and really can't be done in a way that's really going to be beneficial for Americans at this point, especially when you're trying to tear down the same industry, being the gas and oil industry, that has got us to this point over so many some odd decades, and has really, I mean, when Donald Trump left office, had us in a energy dominant position where we were producing more oil than everybody, right? So most Americans understand these things because they're not stupid people, right? We're very forgiving people. We're very hardworking people. We're very nice people at the end of the day, but we're not stupid people. But yet we have an administration in there right now and a Congresswoman in District 12 that is treating us like we are stupid people. All they want to talk about is the LGBTQ agenda. All they want to do is usher in their Green New Deal, no matter who it's hurting at the end of the day, no matter how high it's rising inflation by all the money that they're printing since this man has been in office, and since Bonnie Watson Coleman has been there by his side to put her approval on every single bill they've looked to pass. So, Americans are really fed up. Americans are hurting right now, especially in those communities where that Bonnie Watson Coleman and Joe Biden so audaciously claim to represent all the time. And that's those underserved, specifically urban neighborhoods where inflation is crushing them right now. When I go to just think about what we've seen over the last 3-4 months, we went from everybody on that side, especially when it came to entertainment, sports and other things, really hating somebody like a Donald Trump, right? People like Snoop Dogg made a song, F Donald Trump, will assassinate him, all this stuff. Madonna made the same thing, so much so where the Secret Service had to go visit her. This rapper made a song about him. Everybody excoriating this man. Everybody hating this man. But in the last few months, we've had Snoop Dogg just in the last couple of days, right?
Last couple of days said that he never had any beef with
Said he has no beef with him. In fact, he let out one of his guys that was a member of the Death Row camp back in the day, and he has nothing but love, respect for him. We have Benny the Butcher, who's a top flight American rapper that came out and put up a Twitter post that said, I'm voting for Donald Trump. Then went on the Breakfast Club where they tried to, what they try to do? They try to embarrass you for saying that. So they asked him about it, and he said, well, what I've learned is, as a athlete or somebody as a public figure, you just don't talk about who you're going to vote for. In other words, nodding that I'm still voting for Donald Trump, but I'm not going to feed into your nonsense and let you sit here and embarrass me on your platform, because we're not going to sit here and just change our minds anymore because you guys want us to, right? Because 5-6 years ago, he would have just changed his mind and be like, nah, I'm sorry. I got so much backlash. I'm not voting for Donald Trump. Now they won't even do that anymore. So he's obviously being media trained, and he said the right things even in response to that to let them know he's still voting for him. Then we had Meek Mill, who's a top rapper, retweet that post by him to let us know that he's voting for him now. We got the Kodak Blacks of the world. We got the Little Flips of the world. So everybody is coming onto this side right now because we have real evidence of the difference between somebody that says they love you, they care about you, they're going to do these things, and then somebody that just gives you the whole hard, cold truth. And even though you might not like everything that he says, when he says that he's going to do everything he can to bring betterment to your community, to bring progress to your community, he does it no matter how mean you think he is when he's actually said it. Like when he said, what do you have to lose? Well, now you know what you have to lose, because Joe Biden and Bonnie Watson Coleman are in there, and they're thinking about everything except their actual constituents and the needs of the needs of the people that they represent.
How likely do you think it is that Donald Trump has a rally in the Bronx? as is rumored.
Well, I think if he did that, I think it would be a game changer. I'm hoping that that happens. From what I'm hearing, it is a real possibility. I'm also hearing that it's a real possibility to bring another rally here to New Jersey. So if that happens, I'm hoping to be a part of that. I actually personally talked to Donald Trump himself last year or 2 years ago when I was able to meet with him and asked him to come here and do a rally. So that is something that I've talked to him about personally, that he said to his people right there, something we wanted to look into. So I know some people are working on that now. Hopefully you bring it. But if he does it in the Bronx, and I think he's probably the only person. I don't even think Joe Biden can go to the Bronx and do a rally at this point, to be honest with you. We know AOC can, and she represents the Bronx, right? Because they're protesting her everywhere she goes out there right now. But I think Donald Trump this is what I saw in this man in 2016 when I first endorsed him, when I first said he was going to be president and first jumped on that train way back, in 2015, is he's a very pragmatic person. He comes from these worlds. He comes from New York City. No matter how conservative the conservative side thinks he is, yes, he's a conservative, but he's also an 80-year-old man from New York City. That will never change. So there's going to be a lot of things about Donald Trump that really people see in him that brings a lot of different people together that weren't normally a part of the Republican Party. Blacks, Hispanics, Muslims, different people like that, because we also do remember the old Donald Trump. So if he makes that rally in the Bronx happen, I think it's exactly what he needs to do. And I think it'll be a real game changer. And I think you're going to see Democrats just start going crazy, man, like they already are.
Yeah,
They're
no, I
losing their
mean
heads right now.
that would be kind of like unheard of, right? When was the last time a Republican went to the Bronx for a rally during a presidential race? I mean, that's never happened in recent memory, right? I mean, I think the last Republican to win was like George H.W. Bush, right, in New York. So yeah, it's been a long time. But let's talk about your race for a little bit.
Yeah.
given the fact
We're a little long-winded today.
no, but so your race, right? So you ran in 2022 against Bonnie Watson Coleman, and the district I think is skewed left, right? So it's it's slightly higher Democratic.
They have it somewhere between a D9 and a D16. Who really knows?
So I mean, what will you do differently in 24? And what makes you think 2024 will be different than 2022?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest thing that I'm gonna do different, and I've been talking to my team, over the last some odd weeks and months, is you're gonna see a lot more video of me. Whether that's just you see me putting stuff on my social media, talking about a specific issue, or holding town halls and different stuff like that. I know people. One of the biggest things I heard last year is people want to hear from me directly more. The posts are great. When I'm giving my word, everybody tells me I'm a very eloquent writer. And I value that. And people love hearing my opinion in that way. But people seem to really, not just me, but in the political world, like hearing from you directly. They want to see your face. They want to see your eyes. They want to see your lips and hear what you have to say. So I think you'll see a lot more video of me going around, a lot more video being pushed out there. Obviously, we'll still work on getting on, news stations and different programs of that sort. But we also want to put an emphasis on getting a commercial out this time around, something that we weren't able to do last time around. And then, honestly, other than that, it's going to be a lot more of the same. Knocking doors. We may not knock as many doors as we did last time because we knocked so many. And we want to focus that energy on holding, again, specific events, town halls, things of that sort, bringing the chairs of the different counties together and really working with them this time to put on different events and continue to spread the message throughout the community. But from there, it'll just be, more of the same. Just speaking, attending Republican Party events, attending school events, speaking at schools, speaking at colleges, just doing a lot more of the same and just continuing to get the message out there at the end of the day. And, I think I've set myself up in a good way, which is one of the reasons why I'm happy that I have the foundation where, we can not only have the political side of things, but we can also very strongly advocate for a lot of the issues and a lot of the policies that will come with me getting into Congress, like school choice, like better, more quality education and things of that sort. So it's just going to be more of the same of just going around the district, just meeting people, just getting more and more name recognition. Because that seems to be what people, like to see from me. They like to see a regular guy that's willing to go out there and talk to anybody, just going to the different events, going around the county, and just being that guy that shows empathy for everybody, that listens to everyone. But again, to just specifically answer your question, I think it'd just be more video of me, just more straight up face-to-face communication and talking and holding town halls and collaborating with other people, especially like-minded people that are running for Congress as well. So you'll see a lot more of that this time going around.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's going to be a lot of hard work like I always do, man.
Okay, Darius. So, this year, aside from your race, there's a lot of races going on in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
On the top of the ticket, besides president, right,
Yeah.
there is U.S. Senate, correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any preferences for that particular race?
Not necessarily. I mean, I was hoping and wishing that Jeff Van Drew threw his hat into the ring. I think that would have been a guy that could have really captured that seat for Republicans. We know we have Tammy Murphy on the other side, and she has a whole machine behind her. I mean, I hear they're going from county to county and basically demanding that everybody in the Democratic Party gets behind her. So we pretty much know it's
I wouldn't be too sure about that. I think Andy Kim, right? I think he's got the base though.
He's the one who's exposing it. Andy Kim, that's where I got the information from. He's the one who's exposing it. He's not happy right now because they're going behind the scenes to all the bosses and getting everybody behind her. We know at the end of the day, yes, we know people like Andy Kim have the people, kind of like I have the people on the ground, but we do understand that when it comes to this political game, there's a lot of politics that go along with it as well. And she's lining up
right.
a lot of stuff.
So you're saying that on the Democratic side, it's going to probably be Tammy Murphy, right?
If I had to put my money on it, I'd say it'd be Tammy Murphy. And I think Andy Kim's feeling a little bit of that too, which is why he's been complaining about that lately, because he's literally, they recorded a couple of people being threatened by Democrat officials saying that you have to support Tammy or, we'll make sure we basically ruin your life and you won't be able to get this job. You won't be able to do that. So, they're pulling out all the stops right now. And it's the governor's wife. I'm not excusing it because it's not okay at all, but it's also not surprising that this is happening. I mean, he's the sitting governor right now. His wife is running for Senate. So you better believe that they're going to, behind the scenes, start really pulling strings. And that's part of what's wrong with politics, honestly. And that's what people are tired of. This is why somebody like a Donald Trump was able to be ushered in, because of all the backroom deals and, things of that sort. Like it was interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with like a Ron DeSantis, let's say, because, the first thing I said was, I wonder if they made a deal, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt Trump's going to bring him in as his VP. And that's what we want to see. Great. You guys finish as competitors.
Well, I think Ron DeSantis I think he kind of ruined his own brand. I know.
Well, just like Nikki Haley is doing right now.
Well, I mean, she is doing some irreparable damage right now to her chances at being Trump's potential, VP nominee, and for her political, future. But I think Ron DeSantis, kind of really jumped the gun. I think if he had just waited until 28th, he would have been the front runner. And I know that part of his calculation was to run this year as like a test run for 28, but the fact that he was supposed to do a lot better this year, and he came at like 5% in like, New Hampshire. So I mean, so that's not a very good showing. And I think
I'm not the biggest fan of Ron DeSantis. So, I'm a Trump guy, but I will say clearly, on top of him having one of the worst personalities I've ever seen, obviously he doesn't know how to read a room. And all you had to do was to read the room was understand that Donald Trump primarily operates on one thing, and that's loyalty. You show him loyalty, then he'll have your back forever. He'll be there for you, ride or die. And based on the way that guy is weathering the storm right now, that's the guy that you want on your side to weather a storm, right? Because he is showing real cojones right now. And, he's dealing with and surviving things that the average person would have already succumbed to be honest with you. But by doing that, by basically getting elected because of his endorsement, right? Because nobody knew who you were before he endorsed you. Right. And then to come out and run against him, that was just a shady move.
I mean, even with Nikki Haley, the only reason she was able to become a UN ambassador was because Donald Trump put her there. right?
Yeah, and well, then she's complaining that Tim Scott, endorsed Donald Trump, and because she appointed him to that seat. Well, look what you just did to Donald Trump, right? As far as doing that, and she's even worse because she actually made a statement before that saying that she would never run against Donald Trump. She's actually on tape saying that, even though she'll tell you that she didn't say that. She's literally on tape saying that. And the problem with Nikki Haley is, and what she's getting exposed for, is the fact that she'll basically say anything to anybody depending on what room she's in. And that's not what we want. Again, these people aren't able to read the room, and they don't understand that one of the reasons why we like Donald Trump is because whether you like him or hate him, whether you need to hear it or want to hear it or not, he's just going to tell you the hard, cold facts, how he feels, and he's not going to change that no matter who's in the room.
Right. No, but the fact that Nikki Haley pretty much surpassed Ron DeSantis is very bad for Ron. I mean, this really ruins his chances for 2028. But back to 2024, the non-presidential race, right? So you've established that you think that the pick for the Democrats will be Tammy Murphy. Do you have a guess as to who the Republicans will pick for their?
I really don't, to be honest with you. I know, a couple of people have been throwing their name around. My man over there from NJ12, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, Alex, and I don't really have a horse in that race. I'll be honest with you. I just hope that whoever it is I think right now this is the best chance we have, kind of like with our congressional seats as well, the best chance we have to actually flip that seat to Republican. So if we don't put a competent, strong contender there, then it's just going to be a hugely wasted opportunity. That's why I was hoping that Jeff Van Drew would consider that, because I thought he would have been the guy to actually make that run. Now, I do know behind the scenes, I've been told about a couple of people that we haven't heard yet that, should be and will be jumping in. So it should get interesting over the next.
Can you get a hint as to who these people might be?
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that at all. I was actually sworn to secrecy in a lot of these things. So it's going to be, very interesting.
Now, about next year in New Jersey, we have a governor's race, right? John Bramnick, state senator from New Jersey, recently announced that he's running. Yeah. He is a moderate, right? Jack Ciattarelli, who is also a moderate, is running. So is Bill Spadea, who hasn't. I mean, Jack and Bill, they haven't announced yet, right? But we all know that they're running. So in that race, if you currently have two moderates and one Bill Spadea, who is more of like a Trump kind of guy, do you think that would split the moderate vote and that would cause Bill Spadea to get the nomination?
Good question. I don't know, but I would say that I think it's great. I think that's democracy. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are three strong contenders. I liked Jack, and what he did last time around. I thought he was a great candidate, and I thought he should have won. In fact, Jack just wrote the foreword for our book coming out soon, Our Time to Run. So thank you, brother. Really appreciate that. He's a good guy, man. So wish him well in his endeavors. And I will say, Jack's already running. Jack, like myself, never stopped running. He actually announced that he was running the same day that he gave his concession speech. So Jack's always been running. As you said, we know Bill's out there. Bill has not announced yet, but I think a lot of people around the political world, intend for him to run and believe that is obviously what he's setting up for, because obviously he's out there campaigning now. And, John Bramnick, a guy as a Republican that's winning in a district that's majority Democrat and, getting all those votes and being able to bring over that other side. So, I know a lot of people from the, MAGA base and everything like that don't necessarily, ride with John. I've only met John once. I actually met him at a golf event a few months ago up at a Trump golf course, and we had a short conversation. He was very gracious. I enjoyed speaking with him. But I think, what we see, I think just in those three guys, Bramnick, Ciattarelli, and Spadea, I think that's three strong candidates. I think the Republican Party should be proud to have that race go on in 2025. I think that's real democracy. I look forward to the debates in that, and I look forward to the strongest man coming out on top. And as I always said, whoever it is that wins that nomination, I will absolutely and full-throatedly support.
All right. I was going to ask you, who do you support? But I'm not even going to ask you, because I know you're going to give me like a political answer. And
But
I'm never gonna bother.
listen, this is all I can tell you. And for me, it's not really political. It's just more so. And honestly, I learned from Jack as well. Jack was one of the first people to tell me, listen, when I first went to him for an endorsement, it's like, listen, I don't endorse in the primaries. Once that nominee is there and the party picks him,
Right.
I'm going to give my endorsement. But I will say this, of those three guys that you name, there's no person there that I would just, I would be like, I can't support whether they win. Like, honestly, I said to people, and I've said that if had Ron DeSantis won the Republican nomination, I don't know if I could have supported him. I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not a fan of his for a lot of different reasons, and we can talk about that another time. But these three guys here, there's nobody up there that I wouldn't support. I think, again, John Bramnick, he brings in that diversity where he can really bring over independents and Democrats. So I think he has his strengths there. I think Jack Ciattarelli is a straight shooter and a very polished guy, especially when he speaks. He knows his policy. He was an accountant. So those are, strengths of his that will definitely help him if he wins that seat. And I think Bill Spady, I mean, he has a large audience here in New Jersey. So a lot of people, not just Republicans, know his name. As you said, he is more on the MAGA wing of things. So he's very conservative. So he believes in a lot of the same policies that I believe in and have been advocating for at the end of the day, especially with us both coming from that MAGA wing of the party. So everybody has their strengths. Everybody has their weaknesses, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. But for now, it's 2024, man. And all I'm worried about is hopefully, bringing this win to District 12 so that when one of these guys becomes the next governor, they have real partners to work with here in Congress where we can really get the work. Because it'd be fun if that happens, man.
Great pivot. Great pivot. This is why you're running for Congress. And speaking of which, final question. When you get to Congress, Darius, what will be your signature piece of legislation and why?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I think about this a lot and I get asked this question a lot. I still think right now it would be school choice, bringing school choice to a federal level. Now, as I always said, that probably wouldn't be as significant as far as monetarily as other legislation would be, because when it comes to a federal level of school choice, I mean, the average New Jersey student the average New Jersey school district only receives about $1,000 a kid. Federally. The state of New Jersey pays the overwhelming majority of the rest of that money. So you're not looking at big numbers monetarily. But I do think what that could ultimately do is set the tone for people to feel comfortable to start actually accepting school choice and implementing school choice at the state level, which I think is the most important piece of that. And if we're able to pass that federally, then that gives me the opportunity to come down to the state level with our new governor, with our state assemblymen and senators, and actually start working with them to actively campaign to pass strong school choice and quality education legislation here in New Jersey. So that would be the first thing I would want to do. But I only say that hesitantly because of what's going on at our border right now. And, if when I get there, what's going on is going on now and we haven't passed legislation, that would probably be one of the most important pieces of legislation that we could pass immediately to actually secure our border. But not only secure our border, I'm probably a little bit more right than a lot of people realize when it comes to the border. I'm for a 5-year moratorium on our border where nobody can come into this country while we fix up what's going on in this country. We get all the homeless people off the street. We take care of our veterans. That also means deporting the people that are here illegally, especially those that are violent crime offenders, because I do think it's going to take a big deportation effort once we have a Republican president in November to start to fix what we've seen. I mean, you guys see me at the border on video where you have hundreds and hundreds of people walking in one little small sliver of the border where they're literally being ushered in just a few minutes of one day. So imagine what's going on all across the border in every single state, every minute, every hour, every single day of the week. It's really scary and it's really sad what's happening. We saw those police officers get beat up, yesterday yesterday in New York City, and then the kids came out today. They were giving the cameras the middle fingers. These are all illegal migrants here, giving the cameras the middle finger. They don't care. You have home invasions up astronomically right now in this country, not just in New Jersey, but especially here in New Jersey, where even my home got invaded last year.
Really? Wow.
5 people broke into my house and stole a car.
Were you there?
I was, it was crazy. I was sleeping right on the couch next to the window where they came in. And it's only by the grace of God, because I'm a pretty deep sleeper. It's by the grace of God that I actually heard something. And I heard something and looked up and I saw shadows outside my window, and I realized they were coming in. And it was crazy because I almost feel like it was almost expected. It sounds weird, but it's almost like I was expecting it. So I was so calm. I was calmer than I ever thought I'd be. I just grabbed my phone calmly, slowly walked up the stairs. A girl was up there, had her call the police. And I can't go into detail, started doing what I was doing to, make sure we were good. And, that was a wild situation. But I think, they say a lot of that is happening. There's a lot of Peruvian gangs and different international gangs that are going all around this country, robbing and invading homes right now. And it's not just them. Obviously, we have criminals here in America, but, it's such a shame because I just got back from Peru quite a few months ago, and they're having the same problem out there with all the illegal Venezuelans coming over there. They said they're seeing crime like they've never saw. And they also confirmed for me one thing that the Democrats like to say President Trump was crazy for saying he was a conspiracy theory for saying that we're conspiracy theories. But a lot of these countries, our adversaries, have literally emptied their prisons and sent people here to the United States. These are not all just people looking for asylum that have gone through some, harms and ills. And you know how we know this is not fake and, this actually could be real? Because we've seen it happen before with Cuba, 40, 50 years ago, where they emptied their prison and sent them over here. So it's not like this is not something that we haven't seen. So right now you have countries literally emptying their prisons, their insane asylums, and other facilities, and sending those people over to this country. So the border is probably the most important thing that the next Congress needs to solve immediately, as well as the next president of the United States. Because if we do not, we will not have a country. So my campaign will focus on education, economics, and national security. And again, with the foundation focus, he's focusing on school choice and quality education and accessible education. As far as the economy, making sure we become an energy producing country again, making sure we make those tax cuts permanent for not only the American people, but businesses, to make sure we can keep growing and outpacing ourselves year by year and encourage innovation in this country once again. And national security, where we shore up not only our border, but we make sure we get back to putting the world in order, where we don't have these, rogue regimes this comfortable in doing some of the things that they're doing right now. And I believe that after November of this year, with the election of President Donald J. Trump and congressmen and women like myself and a new Senate, we'll be able to do just like that, do just that expeditiously.
Great. Darius Mayfield, thank you for joining us today and for this lengthy conversation on what you'll be doing, what makes you want to run, and how we can, do things to improve the state of our country, right, on many fronts. Darius, how do people find you if they want to learn more about your campaign?
Yeah, you guys can go right to the website at DariusMayfield4America.com. That's 4FOR. You guys can see me on Instagram at Darius4America. So that's Darius4America. And you guys can catch me on Facebook at Darius Mayfield for America, FOR, and on Twitter at Mr. Mayfield USA.
Okay, Mr. Mayfield, hopefully one day, perhaps, Congressman Mayfield, thank you for coming on Real Talk with Ronnie. We wish you the best of luck on your campaign, and we'll be catching up with you very soon, okay?
Absolutely, man. You have a good one, and stay sharp, brother.
All right. Take care, buddy.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Thanks for watching and listening to Real Talk with Ronnie. To watch and learn more about our show, including ways to contact us and how you can be a guest, go to realtalkronnie.com.